this is Ilina and welcome to another LDRS creative card video. In this video, we're going to make a colorful card using only two products, and both products are die. I'm using the half-inch scallop slimline strips and the big words spring die set. So here I've already die cut a bunch of the scallop strips. They're about 8.5 inches long. So I'm just putting them in a rainbow order so I can see which portion I would like to use for my background. I have also a piece of white cardstock that I've pre-cut to 4 by 5.25. This is a little bit smaller than an A2 size. So I just picked out my rainbow strips. I'm removing the bottom ones since there are too many. And let's get started positioning. So I have a grid on my desk. So I'm first positioning the second strips, since the first one is going to hang out a little bit of the cardstock, and I have better visibility if I do the second one. So I'm lining it up with the grid on my glass mat on my desk. So now I'll remove that tape that I put just to hold my cardstock in place, and now we can start adding the rest of the strips. So the first one, I did just the middle part. I was trying to center it and I didn't think about it. So the rest, I'm just trying to line it up on the left side. That way I can use the leftover strips for future cards, because it's about 8.5 inches long, so I can use it for two cards that are A2 and portrait oriented. So I'm just adding liquid glue. You can use any adhesive of your choice. I find it liquid glue to work best for me, but you can use any adhesive that you prefer. So I'm just going pretty quick here. It's a little bit sped up, so you're not watching me glue these strips for 20 minutes. So now we have on the bottom one, I'm adding a red one. I'm a little bit off the camera here, but you get the idea. I'm gonna put some paper weights to make sure that that dries nice and flat. And while that dries, I'm die cutting my sentiment. I'll be using white. I just die cut. I'm using You're the Spring in my step. I die cut bunch there to try to determine which one I like the best. I figured out that I like best the white, since we have very colorful background, so the white will stand out and provide some contrast. I have 3 of the white die cuts, and I'm using again liquid adhesives to stack those up to add some dimension, and also since they're little intricate, it adds also some sturdiness. I'm making sure that these are nice and lined up. In between each layer, I'm putting the paper weight on top to make sure that it dries nice and flat. I'm adding a little bit more adhesive here, and then we're gonna add the third die cut sentiment. Again, I will add that paper weight. While that's drying, I'm gonna trim off the excess from that cardstock panel. I'm using large scissors. I find that I can cut straighter using large sharp scissors, than if I'm using paper snips or like detailed scissors. You can also use your paper trimmer, but I find it faster and better when I use my scissors. Okay, so the background is done. We have the sentiment. I will also die cut the shadow from vellum. So there I have the shadow. I die cut it off the camera because my die cutting machine is on the side. And I'm again adding liquid adhesive on the back of that sentiment, and I will add to the vellum. I'm making sure that all the parts are covered, so it adheres nice and flat to that piece of vellum. Again, I'm using my paper weight. While that's drying, I will add 3 pieces of scrap cardstock on the back of my background You can also use foam tape or um, craft foam, but I had a bunch of die cut from leftover cardstock and packaging, so that's what I'm using. It also adds some weight and sturdiness when it goes through the mail. Again, if you use more cardstock instead of foam tape, it adds to the weight of the card, so if you're planning to mail it, uh, be mindful that you may need some extra postage. So I have pre-made a top folding card base using white cardstock. Usually I use 11 by 4 and a quarter piece of cardstock, and I score it at 5.5, then fold it in half. So I'm adding that panel, and then we'll just add the sentiment and we'll be finished with our card for today. Again, since we are working with vellum here, I'm just adding adhesive on back of the letters, so it's not that adhesive is not visible on front of the sentiments through the vellum. So I'll put it there, and I think that looks pretty good. I'll add again my paperweight, let it dry for a little bit, and we're finished. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also visit our blog for more ideas and more inspiration. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful day.